Hello. Hi, hi, hi. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the final day. I stuck with it, finished what I start. Let's all try to do that, finish what we start. Let's cocoa on a little speck on my face. 21 days of daily meet and chat comes to an end today, but it's not over. We are going to do weekly chat. Just keep it going for people who might show up and want to chat about something. So weekly Wednesdays, I already put up the first one. I'm going to take a couple of weeks off and come back more organized going forward. So first one is, I think, like whatever, the last Wednesday of the month, something like the 26th or the 29th. So we'll still be on, but we won't be on every day. I'll be making the mental health video, which I was technically supposed to have up by today, but I did not get to it. Things happen, but it will be up because it's just a video that will be available and be here. So just kind of look for that. And let's just kind of go through, see if I have any other little reminders and so on and so forth to remind you guys of before I start talking about the class. So what was my, the final good fuck. I guess I got to go over say something about my titles, right, that I use. So final good fuck. Is that like a breakup thing? Final good fuck means usually it sounds like, for me at least, I used it obviously because today is the 21 day. So it was a little bit of a jokey joke on this one, as opposed to me just putting down the little sex things that I normally do. That was part of it. But yeah, just a final, I guess if it was the last time you are going to have sex with a particular person, if y'all breaking up, if for whatever reason there's a final foot, you obviously just want to make it worthwhile. The bottom line, obviously, in general with sex, and I'm going to be actually talking about that because I'm going to get into the topic that Javon talked about today, which was fibroids, women and fibroids. And I'm going to be all over the place. I already know it because I just have so much going on in my head when he was talking. And obviously, sometimes with Javon, he's Javon, and I have my points of view with that too, coming in and bringing in my perspective from the mental health perspective, from the sociology perspective. So I got a lot to say on that. It was already on my topics list, and I have all of these topics and stuff, and that's one of the reasons too, where I just want to take the time to sit down and kind of organize these things and just put it out here. Hopefully 2 Black people, 4 Black people by a Black person. That's who I'm talking to. Whoever else ends up watching it. Of course, what ends up happening sometimes is other people watch it and get more benefit than the people you are directing it towards. Isn't that always the way? And especially with regards to Black people. So, hopefully we will be continuing to get this information, process this information, be a part of the bigger picture for us as Black people and what we need to do to kind of continue to move forward. We're moving forward. We're always moving forward. Don't believe the hype in any other direction, because any time anybody is saying that we're not moving forward, it's other people who are saying it, and we tend to parrot and puppet that because of conditioning, brainwashing, and programming that we need to get rid of. So yeah. So yeah, today's title was just vibe. He started off talking about going into Javon right away. We have in the 21 days of making of a total man and woman, 21 days of alignment, making of the total woman and man, and Jedi training school. And today's thing was vibe. And he was just talking about how first place he kind of came from was the R. Kelly song and vibe. And he was talking about Aaliyah. And we all know back then, R. Kelly married Aaliyah when she was like 15 or something ridiculous, and just all of that stuff. Again, a lot of it with what men are allowed to get away with, and how women even kind of endorse and co-sign that fuckery. So that's just I don't even know if that's a story for another day, because R. Kelly and all of that stuff, we know, and it's as usual, it's kind of people on opposite sides and disagreeing with it. And that's the case with almost everything. So ain't no sense of just kind of going in. And I'm no R. Kelly fan. I don't listen to R. Kelly. Yes, I liked his first album, especially when he first came out and all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, I don't even have, if I have, let me see if I'm just talking crap or if I have a R. Kelly by accident on my playlist. See if I got him on here anywhere. So I'm not expecting to see him. Nope, no R. Kelly. Here's my R's. So I don't have no R. Kelly. I pretty much already knew I did too. I try to walk my walk, talk my talk. I don't always accomplish it, but for what I believe in, sometimes it's just like, yeah, I'm done with music. If I say I ain't listening to it, I ain't gonna listen to it and stuff like that. I might even have like a CeeLo on there, and I wasn't down with, what he said either. I probably have to look, but I feel more like I probably have a CeeLo on there. It just kind of stayed on there. I think he's done obviously some collabs or whatever, so I might have him on there, but I gotta get him off. All right, so yeah, so that's where we are. Today's the last day, as I've said already, and it's bittersweet, or just sweet. It's sweet. It's no bitter to it. It's just I'm glad I was able to do this. I'm glad I was able to make a contribution. I just thank Turner's Church. I thank Javon and the master teacher and Chris and the Clarks, as I like to call them, and just so that whole vibe. I'm glued out of line, I guess. Sometimes. And when you are, right, like you say, it's not gonna be a kicking and screaming kind of thing. You just kind of know when you are, and I kind of kept coming back to this. So I'm down with them peoples and stuff like that, even though it's going to obviously be times like with all families, you're just going to disagree with a lot, and Javon makes it very easy to disagree with a lot. So but just really appreciative to have done this. He actually did give me a shout out of what I think is so funny. It was probably the day after the most criticism I gave him over that rapey day class that I just totally hated. And he actually, so sometimes, I guess it was also the way the source works and stuff about don't quit this thing, even if you don't like this knucklehead. I was gonna go nigga, but either way, he don't care. But yeah, even if you don't like this knucklehead, don't quit. And he ended up saying keep going, as well. So, that was just if I hadn't mentioned that before, yeah, that was something that happened. It was the day after that video that I put up about thing, and I don't know if he saw it or not. I'm sure he's probably seen clips, but I doubt if he's watched, because all of these videos have been like almost an hour or more. So I doubt if he's watched them and things like that. But they have been I've been given bits and pieces of a lot of what I've learned. I don't know if I ever mentioned, I feel like I didn't even mention that I had done 6 years of research. I kind of fell into sociology, the sociology part, when I was doing the psychology part, because you had to deal with these white people and all of their lazy ass, racist ass inconsistencies and inaccuracies with regard to us, because they're predisposed to their racism and their prejudices and their bigotry. So they don't give a damn about putting out proper information about blacks. That's why a lot of it continues to get recycled in terms of the stereotypes and all of those types of things. So over the course of me, getting their education, I was educating myself a lot, actually, quite a lot. And just really kind of got into the research of what was true and what was not true. And that's kind of when I learned that just about everything that they have given us has been no gift. It has been detrimental, and a lot of it is definitely a lie. Even a half truth is a whole lie. So all of those types of things kind of came into play with ultimately how I just decided to kind of present this stuff. I also seem to have some gifts in this area, some wisdom and some abilities to just naturally be about this life in terms of some sociology, psychology things, and just want to share it. That's where I feel like I got really with what Turner's Church was doing in terms of Black empowerment and connecting with Black people. What you got for my race, and this is what I got for my race. I'm here to help with the mental. So just like, this is how it almost feels like a award ceremony to just say, this is why I'm happy that I did what I did in these 21 days. I'll continue it on a weekly basis. I'll also be putting up things about mental health, also be talking about books. We got the book club, and also just some other books that I wanted to make some commentaries on. I usually try to read. Sometimes I read just some fun fiction. Just for enjoyment's sakes. I like the Carl Weber Family Business series. If you haven't read that, you should. And that would be something I would just be talking about in terms, I guess some people call it ratchet, the Ratchet Reading, one of my book clubs that I was a member of, the live book club, not here online. That's what they would call that, the Ratchet Reading. But I just thought it was an enjoyable book. It's just kind of a series of a jacked up Black family, hot mess, and in the business, right? Doing all kinds of things that you got to do, because we do tend to have to do things a little differently as Black people. And I think I'm going to finalize on that as well. So let's just get to it. So we're on Vibe. This is day 5. Is it day 5? Let me make sure. Yeah, day 5. Vibe of the 21 days of alignment. We are doing our Jedi training, getting our bodies right, eating right. I've been eating right. I can already just looking here and see my shoulders. I'm already getting my little, at least like that. It's coming up. The shoulders are starting to come up a little bit and stuff like that. Still got to work on my guns and things like that. Face gets slimmer. And that's just, briefly. And I haven't been running. I've been riding, but I have gotten up as soon as the class is over, because I'm on the West Coast. So by the time I'm getting up anyway, it's 3:45 to be with the class and try to be consistent in that. So getting out early at about 7 once I finish the class, and then I kind of do my stuff, my meditation, my indoor exercise, and then go out and ride my bike. Just kind of definitely shooting something in. This is my new thing to say. I'm shooting something into the boom boom room. I could just put it down as my manifestation, and that's just kind of which we'll get to next. But yeah, just because it's going to get hot here in Vegas, and just kind of the same way they have something called hot yoga. Just being able to kind of do exercise when it's hot, because sometimes you don't feel like doing anything. So I don't know if I want to call it hot exercise, but I'm writing it down like that, so I'll remember when it comes time. But yeah, let's just do the manifestation right now too. Just kind of saying that I support you vibrationally, putting some vibration on it for anything that you want to manifest. These are the things that I have wanted to manifest. I stopped writing them down, because a lot of times it is true. Sometimes when you set it, you also just set it and forget it. You maybe shouldn't, when it comes to you, you'll remember, oh, I asked for that. I had a moment this morning with something with regard to my finances, which is something that obviously everybody could use a big major change on them. And I literally got like this laser. It's funny that Javon's been doing this thing about the to your head, and I was like, well, why is it coming in on an ankle, like right here, just this big burst of energy? And even right now as I'm talking about it, and I was just, sometimes you're like, is this real? Is this really happening? Just go with it, whatever it is. So that's also something that just kind of came with me today. And the more that it evolves, and a lot of times we were taught or conditioned, don't talk about something unless it's jinx. No, please, I want everybody to know big things. I'm expecting big things to happen, even from just that little bolt of whatever. And if the bigger it manifests, and then as I learn to share more, because you have to kind of come out of your shell with regards to things that you've been private about as well. Now, this is YouTube, so you already know people be trying to get all up in your business. Will you see are you dating? Are you straight? Are you gay? Are you, all of the kind of stuff that people want to know, or know about your business. You got any kids? You married? Can you show up? Once they start getting to know you, people do that all on here. And I see that's very much something that the young people do. Have people all in their lives, all in their relationships. That probably will not be happening, but I will be sharing more things in terms like that when I'm out and about. I live in Vegas, so it is some things interesting to see, and I'll put them on here when I'm out and about, particularly on the Strip, which is probably all y'all interested in. But we do other things, so maybe not. So maybe to show, the area and things like that. But yeah, so my manifestation for today, my co-creation is hot exercise. And I don't know if I want to call it hot, but in the months that are going to be coming, because this is for me, Javon was talking one day saying, don't say the lifestyle change, because that puts kind of a pressure on you, or the weight on you. And I kind of sort of agree with that. But I think also I am always about kind of changing my life. And the thing about it is really just embrace change. Understand that things change no matter what. I have friends and family over the course of my life, and I can always tell when people have a difficulty with change, with things changing, and I'm just like, that's just not realistic, because everything changes. You know, the wonderful old song, "Everything Must Change," but it is like that. Nothing stays the same. Everything must change. If I play it, they dinged me on here before, so I'm feeling like I don't want to play it, or I could just play it so you can hear it. But it's an old song. I think they had like an old version that Quincy Jones did with some dude, Bernard. I can't remember his name, Inger. And then I know Barbra Streisand also has a version. So that's just, you know, for my playlist. I have a variety of stuff, but definitely like some of the old songs with people who could actually sing. But yeah. So yeah, in terms of just kind of embracing change and embracing changes in your life, and also being very flexible and morphing into the difference is that we will become. And so with this manifestation and these hot days to come in the summer, just kind of making sure that, you know, I'm doing exercise, that the heat is good, getting my mind ready for that, you know, because it can get like you just, you know, it drains you and everything like that. And it's good to get out in the sun, especially Black folks. We already know it won't hurt us anyway, but we get to the point where we don't want to be out in the sun, and we need to get out in the sun at least once a day anyway. So that's that with that. All right, so yeah, hot exercise, that's my manifestation. Remember, from the first day, I had the $42,000. That's in the boom boom room. And things like my trip to New York and a minivan, and my new car, and my home office headquarters, my niece's graduation from college. She's graduating from high school in June, but I'm already on college now. My nephew's academics and athletics. He's a really good basketball player. I also want him to be a brain as well. My other nephew, and his clarity on what his career is. I know he's into fashion and photography, and just wanting those things for them in turn. You know, I'm taking care of my mom, helping my mom out. You know, just for me right now, obviously being single is just kind of family things if I'm thinking about people other than myself. But first of all, I need to take care of me, put my oxygen mask on, and then be able to help other people around me. So that's kind of what I've been working on as well. And then just a lot of the other things that we kind of mentioned over the course of today. So today's final one is just more exercises about mind, body, spirit. So getting that body together, getting myself together, continuing to lose weight. This is literally still grad school weight that I had gained, having never been overweight my whole life. So it's okay, you know, and it doesn't have to be, and again, those types of things that we get in our head, that it has to be, oh, because of age and such things happening. I'm also going to talk about that when we get to probably I'll be, as I said, I'm about to be all over the place when I talk about the fibroids. So just yeah, manifestation, co-creating, and I support you vibrationally. I'm putting some vibration on it last day for everybody who watches this, for whatever you want to manifest. It's whatever you want in your boom boom room. Obviously, try to keep it positive. Don't be like you want to murder somebody, even if revenge is your highest bubble. It's one of my bubbles now. It took me a while to get there, but it's one of my bubbles. And for me, it's all about just doing better and being better, getting up, so that, you know, there's nobody who can tell me no for anything. That my life is just a consistent bunch of yeses, the right type of yeses, you know. All right, so on to today's lesson from the master teacher, Javon. Kristen win. She did not win the student body president for NCCU, but she didn't lose. So she didn't win where she will be the actual president or get the candidacy, whatever the process was for that. But she didn't lose. I think very much so, my opinion of it. And she just, you know, it was just a little blip of a talk about it, and they just moved on. And I kind of understand that. I think if you will, you know, when you also have other people rooting for you and supporting you, is, you know, you have to be the leader in how you're going to react. And then other people also will react in kind. You know, maybe if she had been down and out, which is obviously not their style with us doing all of this law of attraction. But this was about that. That was about the law of attraction. As he talked about, she kind of does things willy-nilly in terms of her her thought process, just innocently, just naively, if you will, about just whatever it is that she wants. And you should be like that. Get back to being a kid with a lot of those types of things. And she kind of did that. And I think that it was a good thing for her. And in general, just to kind of see that us, even as us supporting her and rooting for her to be, as she said, not a non-traditional student, her age and all those types of things. But I think, there's no buts. That's period for that. What I was going to also say is, even on the college campuses, it's a political process. And I think that we need to, again, as we're learning about vibration and energy and momentum and power and action and frequency and all of those things that kind of go along with what is this whole source existence. I want to make sure I get all of those words. So I'm opening up my little page that I have usually with all those words on it. And I'm gonna have to take a drink of water. So harmony, alignment, vibration, energy, frequency, momentum, power, creation. And then that's combined with your six senses and some emotions like fight. That's another emotion we don't often say, but Black people definitely, you've got to keep some fight in you to survive, to keep going, and action and determination and drive. Again, that's why I realized, oh yeah, maybe revenge is my highest bubble, so yeah. And working smart and not hard, and and what you see and hear and taste and touch and think, and what was the other one? See, hear, taste, touch, smell. Got smell. So six senses. We always forget thought, or think, which is the sixth sense. We usually name the five, and thinking it's a see, smell, hear, taste, touch. And then see, once I started thinking about it. But yeah, so all of those things. But also understanding that even right now, with the political climate of the United States and us experiencing and existing in that, I think that that's something that you can take a cue from in terms of how politics is shifted in a totally different direction forever. And when I mean forever, definitely in all of our lives, in our lifetimes, thanks to this election of this moron, 45, cult 45, his clique and him. And I think that a little bit, I can understand why the young people kind of just out of the process. They have no interest in the process, because I have no interest in the process, and I'm older than them, that's for sure. So I think a lot of times now going forward, when you start thinking about even being part of the political process, you almost have to run to lose in a way, in the sense that you are just like, you have to be basically letting it know this, this politics stuff is bull crap, and we don't need leadership. As I said before, we need to be leaderful. And I'm just kind of being that bridge. When she was saying being the bridge kind of on that, where it's like no politics, none of this school bureaucracy, red tape kind of stuff, all of those types of things. Because she had some good ideas. I remember what she was saying about, the foreign, getting people to get comfortable going out of the country and all of those types of things. But also, what are the kids kind of interested in? What are they truly nervous about? Certainly from the mental, what's really going on inside? What are their concerns and things like that as well, and how you can relate that as somebody who's a parent of even somebody who's going to be a freshman at that same college next year and things. So I'm not giving her advice. Obviously, the process is over, and I just mind about my business and supported her and things like that. But I just that's one of the things I thought about in terms of, when you're dealing with young people as well. Sometimes, as I said, fall back and kind of let them lead, and kind of what's going on with them, and how you can make their topics your topic in a way that you are an ally adult, where they might not necessarily see you parentally. So That's just a thing. And I think being at the Black Student Union, I guess on a black college is not as big, but I know for me, I had zero interest in student government except the Black Student Union at my predominantly white university, and being around all of these fake ass white people and that whole liberal. And I went to a liberal arts college, private college, Ivy League, money kind of, you know, sprinkled around kind of liberally, and them thinking they're liberal and being like the Get Out crew from that movie. So it's that kind of situation with regards to just kind of understanding who you're dealing with. And as you begin to connect the dots, because that's all it is, right? Because they've taken all our history and either destroyed it or distorted it. And we've been trying to connect the dots ever since, all the way back from what they've done to Africa, continue to do to Africa physically, and every aspect, from its people to its lands, all those other things that still affect us, because as spiritual people, we feel that, you know, whether or not we try to feel it and we make it something else in the story we tell ourselves in our head, we are very much connected, and that's why we have the physical reactions to all of the injustice. First of all, because it just keeps getting piled on, but there's also a reason for it in terms of how we feel experiencing Blackness and being in the skin that we are in. So yeah, so she didn't win, but she did win, I felt, in that way overall. So that was that. And I got my notes today because I'm going to be all over the place, because right now here's where it comes. Fibroids. Javon talked about fibroids. The Naked Girls talked about fibroids. I didn't catch theirs, unfortunately. I just was busy, so didn't catch theirs. So I'm going to say my piece, and maybe I'll go and look at them and see if they just said things that I said. But it's so much thing. It's so much to kind of say about it. So I'll be all over the place, and just, as I said, apologize if I'm jumping around. But yeah, sometimes your job with me, because I am been giving you literally tossing. It's like you have a friend and y'all play that game where you toss a little popcorn. They open their mouth and try to catch it. You know, I've been given morsels of everything over the course of these 21 days. So obviously, yes, the birth control is the problem. Birth control is absolutely one of the problems. The other problem, in my opinion, is also relaxing your hair. It's funny that we all in this kind of natural thing, but I think also the whole toxics and the chemicals about relaxing your hair also has to do with the fibroids as well. And I'll get to that later and stuff like that. But also remember, I've also been talking about you can heal your life, because sometimes there's also some emotions going on there. These are literally balls of blood, because you've stopped your period for the most part, but also your blood is boiling. You know, a boil, we call a bump, or a ball, a boil. So it's the same thing too, in terms of sometimes what's going on with your life, what's going on in your head, where you are going to have a blood boiling fibroid kind of situation as well, anger, hurt, whatever it is that would generate that kind of thing. So it's kind of threefold, but I'm gonna be all over the place. So I'm about to say, I'm gonna just stick to birth control, but knowing me, it's me. So let's see what time we are at. This will probably go for, let's see, maybe I'll get through it fast. But anyway, yes, so birth control is kind of the first thing. Birth control is messing us up. And the funny thing with birth control, I am an advocate. If you haven't already figured that out, I'm an advocate for, I said I'm not pro-life, I'm not pro-choice, I am pro-responsible behavior, I am pro-sex education, I am pro-health education. I believe in condoms. I picked them out today just to show y'all condoms that you can actually get for free. You don't even have to buy these things in the store. That's my first gripe with Black people. I've been involved with health education and sex education, obviously, because this, as part of my mental health field, these things overlap. And I can tell you, whether you be at these little seminars, whether you be at these little functions and events where they're having these kind of sex things, it's not unusual for me sometimes to be the only Black person, you know, or definitely if it's 100 people, you know, to be 3, 4, 5 of us there and no other Black people there with regards to sex and stuff like that. We already know the gay community does a tremendous job with it and things like that. But even just on college campuses and things like that, people don't like to walk up to these tables. And a lot of times it's just not the case with some people where we have a problem with that. So we need a little sex 101 for adults. I'm going to do a brief one here, but maybe I'll do a longer one. But yes, condoms. That's the first thing in terms of like birth control. That yeah, we should be doing something to plan our parenthood, to control our births. There's nothing wrong with that. Fuck all that dumb hotep conscious people, or men in particular, talking about all this bullshit about women not wanting to get pregnant and that they trying to stop our population and all the bullshit y'all got on the bandwagon with and got yourselves all caught up and not really doing any research, any history as usual. You just still end up being a puppet for white people and you don't even realize how. And I think I'll get to that as well, because that makes me a little bit mad too, because we end up doing these things thinking it's our idea and it's not, it's their idea. And y'all just kind of going with it without really having further information. So fuck all that and don't do that for the most part. But yes, birth control did do a number on black women with the whole fibroid situation, and just in general kind of fucking up our insides. And it is also one of those situations where the thing they give us and then they say they can't, you know, that they make on us and then they say they can't cure us. And ultimately for me is that they, you know, they kind of want to mess us up, black women in particular, right? Because you know, they ultimately, it is about sterilization. No matter what age you are, even if you've finished having babies, they always want to go back to cutting out your womb, cutting, you know, just cutting you open. And it's very symbolic of cutting Africa open. I'm not lying about that. I know it seems like a stretch, but it's very symbolic of cutting Mother Earth, cutting the Queen Mother open. And you know, and everything that they create to do with that. And again, as we talked about, I think I talked about it briefly yesterday, how they used black women and black children and black men as their guinea pigs in all types of medical experiments where we didn't even live through the process of whatever they were experimenting on us. So, you know, you have to remember who the barbarians and the savages and the uncivilized people that you are dealing with who even started all of this. So it's just kind of birth control and wanting to sterilize us, but there has to kind of be a logical, rational medium here with us not getting all in this hotep bullshit and not understanding that there needs to be some balance with the way black women in general are taken care of and how we are taking care of ourselves. So shut the fuck up with all this Margaret Sanger, Planned Parenthood shit. I'm going to be cursing a little bit today because that's some bullshit too. Men need to shut the fuck up. And I'm going to get into why I think all of that too, including some of the bullshit that even Javon was saying. So that's my point on that. And I got a bunch of points. No matter what age, they always want to literally and symbolic. Oh, okay. I started speaking on it. Kill the ability of the Queen Mother to birth a nation. That's what I wrote. Birth of a nation. So yeah, it's always kind of a symbolic thing about wanting to sterilize us. I am going to talk about the Margaret Sanger, but I don't, again, that's just how the conditioning works. I really don't want it to be in the same context with this, but unfortunately it has to be. And again, I'm making this disclaimer. See how all of that kind of works in the conditioning and the programming and in the brainwashing. We're still all together in the same sentences and in the same context, because that's how we've been played, you know, how we've been how we've been the parrots, how we've been the puppets, whatever they want us to say, whatever they want us to do, and we just kind of reiterate it and we think it's hotep and all of this bullshit, you know. So okay, see, I'm talking already because I have it down here. I'm pro responsible behavior, sex education, health and health education. So, you know, not pro-life, not pro-choice, but I'm pro definitely black girls, but black boys too, and we need sex education. So again, this whole thing, this is about the balls of blood that because we have stopped our period, that have become things in our bodies that are making us sick, that ultimately are killing us, that are making them remove our wombs, which is definitely something they want to do. Even if symbolically you can be a 50-year-old, 60-year-old, 70-year-old woman, finished having children, and they still want to come with you about this. Let's remove your womb, remove your breast, all of this bullshit, that kind of stuff that they have gotten our heads into without us first having learned from, basically we should be learning from a baby how to begin to always have our self-health, not help, self-health in mind from day one all the way until we are returned to earth or lose this physical form, which is what I prefer to say. So, okay. So Sex 101 for adults. fucking raw, having unprotected sex or fucking raw is fucking stupid. It's dumb. You should never have been doing it. But okay, I know we need to have kids out here. We need to continue growing. But I do agree with Javon there. A lot of times when women did shit, they did it for men. I have never been on birth control. I made a lot of different choices for my life anyway. But my experience, brief experience with the fibroids was literally junk, the toxins, the poison food, the crap, that the food products that they have. And I'm going back to where I didn't forget I'm on the fucking raw kind of stuff. But I wanted to just kind of interject that I literally, the same testimony he gave the other day with the woman who kind of had like 3 heavy days of blood and then had a big ball just kind of come out of her into the toilet. That's what happened with me. It was literally just like I stopped eating the foods, started eating healthier way back when I realized that, this whole whiteness supremacy was all over our lives, tattooed all over everything that we do, and me getting about myself. And I stopped eating all of their poisons and all of those kinds of things. So if I was going to get some fibroids, I guess it was going to be from those hormones and poisons in the food. And I stopped eating that crap. Off and on, obviously, I have eaten it again, but never to the degree that when I was younger, like most people, the teenagers going out and eating all that garbage. And I did not have any problems with fibroids. Another thing in terms of them saying that, you can't get rid of fibroids. They tell Black women that kind of stuff too. Anything that they say is incurable, whether it be cancer, whether it be fibroids, whatever stuff, don't believe them. And obviously you can go from, as I said, with them when I was reading Louise Hay's book, anything that's incurable is just curable within. So just anything in general is curable within. So, but don't believe them anyway, because you're believing people who were never intended to help you whatsoever with anything. So you are now you're going to go to them to heal you. Now you're going to go to them for help and expect that in general, the general consensus of what they have done in their collective consciousness, because we don't have collective consciousness with white people, whether or not y'all believe it, we don't, not at all. They are counterproductive and counterintuitive to Black people. So their collective consensus with all of this evidence we have from being kidnapped and enslaved, right? You need to kind of talk about the action that was taken against us as the victims. We were kidnapped and enslaved, right? So we are the kidnapped, but I'm looking for the other word, hostages. Yes, the hostages and then the enslaved. So, and we can't even necessarily call us hostages, right? Because nobody was bartering for us. But yes, so that was kind of my experience with the whole fibroids thing. Just that time, all of it just came out once I stopped eating all the toxins and poisons. It wasn't a birth control thing for me, and I have not ever had any experiences with the whole birth control and the fibroid issue. One of the people who called Javon yesterday was my sister. He said 20 women called him. I text my sister. I'm not going to show you. You probably won't be able to see all of them. But yes, we had a big old long texting. And that's all me kind of talking to her about it and telling her about the toxins. And she even sent me a picture of the food that she had eaten for the day and all of that stuff, because she's already been doing the healthy thing. But yes, she's been going back and forth with the whole fibroids issue. So I was like, okay, I've been trying to get already with the bubbles and the bears. And, she, like most people, they won't go. Maybe this will be also her way to get into getting with the bubbles and the bears. But definitely anything, like most of those women who probably called him as well, anybody or anything that can help with this fibroid bullshit that women are going through, including, it's not just my sister, but that's somebody I love, one of the people I love most in this world. But also my friends, people who have gone through it over the years, and, and I've tried to be like, yo, you need to do things. Don't rely on these hospitals. Don't rely on these doctors and all of that kind of stuff. So, it was definitely hit close to home, and I was just like, call them up. You kind of have to help them to be proactive. So I couldn't do everything for her. I was like, if you want to do this, call them up and talk to them. but if you're ready to buy it, I also gave her his website and all that kind of stuff. So she and then somebody put up something on Chris's timeline today, saying that they had their tubes tied like 7 years ago, but then they still in 2016 were diagnosed with fibroids and with anemia, which is they pretty much go hand in hand. And also, we already know the iron that they give you is bullshit. And then you also are constipated. All of those, just the mess that it does to the strongest woman of all the women, races and ethnicities of women, and how it wreaks havoc on our body, and how we haven't connected the dots with it. It's just beyond me. That we hadn't caught on to this before, but I've always been kind of one of the people going, yeah, they kind of do, it's a combination of things that are doing this to us. So I'm definitely glad that we kind of talked about the birth control stuff. So you should be using condoms. Yes, I got condoms. So you're adult, you should have condoms. You should be having protective sex, making them use a condom and pulling the hell out. I don't get it. But I'm talking Sex 101 for adults right now. I happen to be, and I said that before, I happen to be the birds and the bees aunt for my nieces and nephews. As I mentioned before, I am the birds and the bees aunt. So yes, they have seen this since they were 8 years old. So it's nothing that you should be ashamed of. You should be talking to them about it and bringing out the props. But it's apparently, I think a lot of adults never got the talk yet as well. I didn't get the talk from my mom. That's one of the reasons that when it was time and I had more education and understanding, sometimes the older generation is a little bit more ignorant, a little less educated, those types of things. They just kind of recycle in the same misinformation, bad advice, all of the things that they didn't know, the things that they didn't understand. And so that a lot of times they didn't have the time or the ability to teach the kids what they needed to teach the kids. And in learning about sex, they weren't learning about it themselves. Because who the fuck wants to have 13 kids? I don't give a fuck. I know everybody's saying this stuff about your I'm sorry, I'm cursing. But I know everybody's saying all this nonsense about, oh, my grandmother had or great grandmother had 13 kids. That's some bullshit. She had that because she couldn't do nothing but have unprotected sex. A lot of times they didn't have any resources. I like, yes, that they were stronger and they didn't have all this prenatal care, or they didn't need all that stuff to have healthy babies and conceive children. That's a wonderful thing. But nobody should have been having those 13 kids, in my opinion. And I know back then it was much more of a need to have kids for farming and all the other stories they tell you and everything like that. But it is a new age. We never going back. So all of the time when we say stupid shit like we need to go back to, we don't need to go back to nothing, because we don't go back. It doesn't work like that. This is 2017. It's going to be 2018. It's never going to be 2016 again. It's never going to be 1865 again. All of those times are gone. Going forward, we don't want to have that kind of go on. I wish my mom would have done different things. And, she did make the sacrifices for me. But as an adult, hopefully you also will think unselfishly and be like, I wish she had different opportunities to do things that she probably really wanted to do, instead of things that she had to do or she felt like she had to do based on the circumstances and situations that she was in. So a woman having to sit around and have sex with a man and possibly get pregnant every single time she lays down, that's not fucking pleasurable to me. That's not, for me, it never resonated. It never, I just didn't process it and absorb it that way. I did not like those stories when they talk about women sitting around having 13 kids and all of that. It just didn't. I just felt like sometimes it was the certain circumstances that women were in. We already know they were less than. We as a Black people are still less than. So you already know what you're kind of dealing with. So I don't really kind of glorify it. I think it's a wonderful thing when you see these pictures of big families. That's great. I'm just saying, for me to be like, she didn't have any other hopes or dreams. I like to see smart women. I'm a smart woman, and I'm not ashamed of that. Everybody makes different choices for them. And to do other things, be an artist, be an engineer, all those types of things. I'm kind of on that side. But I do have friends and family who obviously wanted to be parents and wanted to be wives and all had those types of aspirations too. That's the thing. You should have a spectrum of people from all walks of life, doing all things, and nothing should be wrong with it. As long as you're not doing something crazy, murdering, killing, hurting kids, hurting the elderly, something like that, do you, boo. But I'm just saying, don't put it out there where you keep saying, well, my grandmama had 13 kids. Like everybody wanted to do that shit. Or like that's impressive that she couldn't have protected sex, and not every single time she lays down, she's at the risk of, because this man wants to have sex and busting her, that she's gonna have to have a baby that she has to put up with. That first of all, she's pregnant for a whole fucking year practically, or 3 months short of a year. I'm just, let me not. I just feel like sometimes it's just stupid to me. So anyway, in today's day and age, fucking raw or having unprotected sex is goddamn stupid. You should be having protected sex. You should learn about protected sex. You should teach your kids about protected sex, not just for diseases. If you're a woman, you got to worry about getting pregnant, and you got to worry about diseases. If you're a man, you got to worry about getting someone pregnant and diseases. If you're a homosexual couple, yes, deal with it, Black people. You got to worry about diseases. Those things happen. If you're a parent, I don't know all of this stuff past LGBT, the Q. I don't know the Q plus, whatever the plus is. I can't speak on all of that. I'm gonna stay in my lane on that. I don't have no opinion on it, because I go with fluidity and the sexual. I don't know any of all of that kind of stuff. But I acknowledge we have everybody, and let's stop being a hypocrite about that nonsense. But you need to be having protected sex. Sex is a wonderful thing. We should all be having sex, because it's actually part of health to be having sex. As long as you can have sex, have sex. You should probably be having it until you're old. Women, stop thinking that when you reach a certain age, you ain't expecting to have sex. Oh, I don't want to have sex no more. A lot of them women who had 13 kids, of course, they didn't want to have sex no more. I saw a lady on TV saying that. She was just like, her husband tries to get on top of her, and she'd just be like, no. They had 13 kids. I know why she'd be like, no. And she ain't got no kids now, but just the running the risk of it. And even the woman when she was like 62, and they showed her on television recently, and she was pregnant. I was just like, wow, so yeah. So it's just two people, but the bottom line also for that as well is women get the short end of the stick. We already know. Let's deal with the now, in the present. Women tend to be, if somebody abandons the home, it tends to be the man, and the woman is left with the child. Or abandons the relationship. If a woman gets pregnant, the woman has to carry this baby for all but 3 months up a year. And then she has to keep this baby for her whole life for the most part. But definitely she's legally responsible for them until roughly 21 years old. And there's nothing wrong with, having your kids around and all this stuff. I'm obviously not knocking any of that. I like to be around my mom too. We live 3,000 miles away. When I was adult. I stayed gone when I left. But I know sometimes the siblings still live at home. And I have that experience too. But it's just one of those things in terms of when women lay down, only one is going to get pregnant. So this is why I say sometimes men need to shut the fuck up and mind their business and let women do what they need to do. But it's okay if you can get some other opinions about things that you might not just be thinking about, and you need other points of view. So obviously you want to welcome, and it is too, hopefully, if you are planning your parenthood, we're going to get to the Planned Parenthood thing, and you're planning your sex life, that you do have input from both partners. But this fucking raw stuff, this unprotected sex stuff, I just don't understand the benefit in the long run for the risk for either person, but especially for the person who ends up possibly making another human being, or the person who is on birth control and ends up having no period, and then having these balls of blood growing inside of them like a little vegetable patch of cantaloupes. It's just ridiculous to me. So yeah. So when we got to talking about this today, I was like, I'm with it. I got stuff to say about it. So, and the one thing I want to say is, if you're a guy who paid for an abortion, you're a fuckboy. If you're a guy who didn't pay for abortion, but you got a girl pregnant, you're a fuckboy. So Javon, no offense meant, master teacher. Don't act like y'all get excluded from these types of things. People have to do what they have to do. I know people who've had, of all my friends and family or whoever I know who's had abortion. I have not had an abortion. I ain't got to put my business out there, but it's when you can say, well, I haven't had one. And, you know, I can just say I haven't had one. I don't know that, but I have been support for people who have had abortions. Out of everybody I've known, and I've known a lot of people at this point in my life, I can only say one person I just was like, she was ridiculous. Everybody else, I understood. Your abortion, I understood. I to this day, I don't see anything wrong with it and all of those types of things. You know, and I know this all of that whole church stuff, and that's about white people and their population not growing and all of that kind of stuff. Yes, that is true. Again, I'm gonna say all of that as I get to the to the Margaret Sanger thing, because I know I have it here on the points, but I'm gonna talk about some of the stuff that Javon talked about. But yeah, don't think the fuck boys get excluded and all this stuff. But yeah, having raw sex, doing it for the guys, that's primarily where this whole birth control thing came from. It's true in terms of us women not being certain about the guy that they're with. That's why you do it as well. You don't know if you want to get pregnant by this and the knucklehead that you with and all that other stuff. But you got to do everything you can to protect yourself. And if you go to these little help, these things are free a lot of times. You don't even have to buy condoms and things. If you go to like little in schools, go to centers, damn sure the LGBT community, all of those types of things, you can get all of the health education and sex talk in terms of education that you want. And you should be willing to kind of get that and educate yourself, because the amount of adults and you know, we already know kind of herpes, AIDS, all of gonorrhea, syphilis, all those types of things that have been around for years, and then even though they've been improving the whole sex protection industry, which is primarily well, for them, birth control, because obviously they're coming out with a men's birth control. Oh, actually no, because of course we know men don't have to go through all of this. They did come out with a men's shot just recently, and they can't sell it. You can Google it. It just happened maybe 2-3 days ago. Of course they can't sell it, because men ain't trying to do nothing but bust inside women who will allow them to. So that's just my raw talk. So yeah, so if you letting them do it, you being the depository, you already know, and hopefully you've learned by now in terms of one of the things about that is more women are more susceptible to pregnancy, obviously pregnancy, but diseases is because, you know, your womb is literally like this little maze whatever they shoot inside of you that can swim all up in there and just connect to things. Just hang on the block. It's the hood of sperms and all kinds of other sicknesses and things that's just up there like, what's up? When the new diseases come to join them. So yes, you need to be a little bit more, nothing about you needs to necessarily change in terms of you being at fault, because it's both men and women. But I think that women have always needed to be more proactive about their sex life and be in control of it. And we already know we have a whole District of Columbia nonsense, and that has nothing to do with Black people. If you haven't figured that out, that's pretty much what they want to do with white women, but everybody else under it, you know, it might have that little trickle down effect, which I don't even necessarily think is the case when, again, getting to the Margaret Sanger thing. So yeah, you know, but yeah, this is something I also feel very passionately about too, because I just think that we need to kind of go back to having some sex education for adults too, because a lot of them didn't learn it anyway. But this it has always boggled my mind, my whole adult life, have friends and all that stuff. I'd be like, you fucking that nigga, bro? I literally have said that to some of my friends. I just can't even believe you want birth control for him. You letting that guy put his dick in you without one of these, you stupid. Oh, all right. On to the next thing. So yes, when I was in the military, yeah, this is a lot. I said I would be all over the place. I probably end up going. I haven't gone to 5:30 in a while, but But yes, when I was in the military, as we were saying, sometimes where they try to force you, and Black women don't know, and we just looking to trust somebody, especially when we concerned if we already sick. We just looking for anybody who looks like a compassionate face, a helping hand. That's one of the reasons we need to literally start like a whole buddy system network with Black people, Black women having other Black women to go to the doctors with, because We just hook, line, and sinker buy into everything these doctors say. And again, as I said, these people are not for us. We already know this. You can find evidence of it. You literally have centuries of evidence of it. It's counterproductive. It's counterintuitive. They are not for you. Don't look and say, oh, that was a nice white lady. Even I heard Chris say that today. I stopped saying stuff like that. I already told you I believe that the white ally is a myth. They ain't got no skin in the game. That's what I'm going to finish up with today. So I just don't believe it anyway. But if you feel like from in that moment, you've got to trust somebody, you need somebody, you know, try to have a friend beforehand. Start opening up. That's another thing, because we have an issue with keeping all of this stuff inside, keeping it to ourselves. What happens in this house stays in this house. Oh, she don't need to know my business. Even my niece called me today with her little teenage drama at high school. Oh, my friend is, you know, I know they know a little bit, but they ain't had to say all that. You know, I just let her talk because she's a teenager, but I try to slowly get her past that, and she maybe when she watches this, it'll be a gift that she realizes, you know, fuck all that. Sometimes you need to find out who you can trust, who you can support, who can support you, who can be a buddy. We need a whole Black woman buddy system where we're not talking negatives and always sitting around talking about our sicknesses, but then when we go to these doctors and when we go to these hospitals, you know, you can have somebody that'll speak up. I remember when my niece got sick when she was little and she was running a really seriously high fever, like 104, 105, which is extremely dangerous for a child. And, you know, my sister already gets nervous when she gets sick when she was just a little baby as it all. But I'm just there talking to the doctor. I'm not a big fan on, but, you know, once you're there in the emergency room, then I'm like, look, give the antibiotics and stuff like that, because penicillin, and that's another whole day. When they said the penicillin was the best thing since sliced bread, that actually was true. That's where they should have stopped. Big Pharma, of course, went and started doing a whole lot of other stuff because they wanted to make a whole lot of other money. But penicillin, when it was just that antibiotic, when we didn't need a whole lot of other antibiotics that don't even work anymore because there's just so many toxins in the air, when it was just that one penicillin antibiotic kind of situation, those types of things were probably helpful for whatever little ailments and viruses that you had back in the day. For the most part, that's not the case now. That's why a lot of these antibiotics don't even work. But my niece at that particular point, you know, because you know how they look at Black kids anyway, and think that we have a lot more of a tolerance for pain and all this other stuff. Black people, they do that too, where they say that they've done their little research on that, where a lot of times they'll give us less painkillers, all this other stuff, let us go longer before they give us painkillers, all that kind of stuff. But I was there with my sister and I had to be like, she needs something, you know, give her an antibiotic. And they actually gave her an antibiotic because I told them to give her one. And you just kind of have to have somebody to be an advocate. And of course, it's a labor of love without question with my niece, but it just needs to be us understanding what we've gone through. Some of us have some nightmare stories from the doctor's office. So because of that, you just need to, you know, think about who can advocate for you or start some sort of network. Everything I kind of come up with these things, and I'll sometimes I just be like, oh, do I have to start another group, or do I have to? Because you know, I've done these things before because of that, where you just like trying to start some sort of advocacy network for Black women, and that's all I care about. Maybe it's something I'll put on the in the group section and stuff like that for people in every state to just kind of have somebody who can go to the doctor with you. You ain't got to let everybody know your business, but maybe some sort of general understanding of it. All right. So yeah, I said the white doctor in the military tried to get me to take birth control because, like I said, I was not taking no birth control. And they, you know, and they would ask, well, what do you use and all that, you know, all that kind of stuff, and literally trying to make me take it. And I already knew better. I might have been in the military, but I already had my mind on what these white folks was about. That was just a means to a means, not a means to an end. Oh, there's another one for y'all. Yeah. So my little nuggets. Yeah. So yeah. And I just adamantly was like, no, you're not giving me no birth control. But a lot of my friends, almost all of them, when they went in there with those same doctors, because they try to do that to you when you first get in, because they figure you're going to be fucking, and if they don't rape you, acquaintance rape or date rape, that unfortunately happens in the military a lot, and it didn't happen, thankfully. I didn't have any close. That's a whole nother story, but I didn't have any close calls with that stuff, except you got to be like, let me get a firearm. Because I ain't got no time to be wrestling with no knucklehead who kind of trying to come in there. You are gone. I ain't gonna think you coming through my door to bake me a cake. So yeah, but another tangent. But yeah, the white doctor did try to, in the military, tried to make me get on birth control. And I was like, no. So you just kind of have to stand up for yourself. All right. So, yeah, the grandmother I talked about with the 13 kids, I don't agree with that nonsense. And also, something Javon said, and I've heard other people, I think Chris said it one time too, when they were saying that back in the day for a lot of women, and I think that may be true for some, but most women don't cry rape. If you said you were raped, you were raped. So these other ones, it might be some cases where you just said you were raped to cover up for having a baby, but I just take that very seriously. So I just want to put that out there, that most women don't cry rape. It's literally their statistics, and I keep saying theirs when they actually do statistics, meaning the white folks and stuff like that. It's like literally like 97% of the people who have said they were raped were raped. So ain't no covering up and stuff like that. But it is true in terms of going on the trifling men kind of situation, where a lot of times these women got into it when they laid down and took this risk. They took a risk with somebody they thought they could take a risk with, in terms of possibly making a baby. I'm laying down with this nigga that I might actually end up getting pregnant by. And a lot of times you might think, and they just don't turn out to be that way. I feel like that was the case with my mom. You know, I felt like, you know, when you're growing up and once you start seeing the people, you be like, okay, you're not even worthy of my mom. But that's who they choose for whatever reason. And maybe at that time they're thinking that that person is going to be different, or they're going to be whatever they're going to be. And they're just some half-ass trifling mug that doesn't even need to be there. So yes, it is. It does. That also does play a role in terms of what ultimately ends up happening with making these babies with a whole bunch of trifling people, and just a lot of brokenness. We already know that broken people break other people, hurting people hurt other people, and just all of the things that we aren't yet still dealing with in our communities. And it does have to come down to planning our parenthood, safe sex, educating ourselves on every single level, those 5 areas of your life. Relationships, that's all the sex stuff that kind of comes under it. Finance, career, spirituality, and health. So we always need to kind of be working on that. All right, so I talked about that. Oh yeah, well, he talked about, I think he started off and he talked about the young girls, our girls, my niece included. Her mom has always kind of been working out, so she hasn't really got over and above beyond, but still, they are definitely more thicker. When I was 15, I looked like I was anywhere from 10 to 11. When I was 18, I looked like I was anywhere from like 12 to 13. So it is different in terms of how these girls, I don't know the ages of these teenagers. Sometimes the only way I know they're teenagers is because they're coming out of the high school. I just cannot tell. And Javon was saying, of course, you know, them having the bellies and having the, obviously being overdeveloped, having the titties and the ass and just being baby girls. But they're just very overdeveloped, but then also them having hygiene issues in terms of being musky, them having skin issues, and pimples and stuff like that. It's just a combination of things, unfortunately, that affect our girls more than they affect our boys. All of the kids are eating all of the crap, but it is true, the testosterone in men and in boys tends to help them a lot more than the estrogen, which tends to, he was talking about progesterone, I can't even say it. Yeah, but it's actually a lot of times the estrogen that it reacts with the toxins that have our girls looking like horses, right? A lot of times they'd be like butts and thighs and walking, you just like, what in the is that kind of thing. It's not real food that they're eating, food products, all those types of things. So yeah, but it also comes down to us kind of having to talk to our girls about all of those things, that we need to be talking to them about sex, as I said, and also their hygiene, also how they can protect their skin. We already know a lot of it has to do with the food, but it also has to do with conversation and communication. And teachable moments and not criticizing them. And we are not doing any of that. It's just like almost not at all. So just hopefully will kind of go out. I try to do it whenever I'm asked to definitely speak to young people. It's probably when I'm most prepared, where I will put stuff up. But I always try to come from this, because a lot of times they're just hearing the same stuff from adults over and over again. Whenever I kind of come in talking about stuff like this, I get a lot. It's the most popular, and I get a lot of questions because adults are not talking to them about this. So now that you're hearing me say I'm talking to them about this and they're really interested in, it's the same thing when I said if you talk to them about life 101, about paying rent and about sex and about things like that, that they're not just hearing blah blah, mom, grandma, yeah, they saying the same thing, we heard it all before and stuff like that, they're more receptive to. So instead of definitely criticizing them or making them feel some kind of way, as they like to say, the kids feeling some kind of way about it and stuff like that, we need to kind of do it differently for them and recognize that, you know, it's not their fault. It's also part of what's going on in the environment. So yeah, that is what I have there. So the final thing I have to say about did I talk about relaxers? Oh, I skipped it. Okay. So yeah, relaxing your hair is also tied to it. It's the same thing. It's just the chemicals and the toxins. So my sister is a good example, and she probably gonna watch this one day. Go, I can't believe she talked about, I love you, baby. Sorry, but I'm helping you and everybody else. Relaxing your hair. My sister has always pretty much relaxed her hair and has always pretty much since her adult life been on birth control. The 2 kisses of death, fibroid death in this case, and obviously has just been going through hell pretty much her whole adult life with this damn fibroid stuff. And you know, I literally just kind of wrote her, look, I'm not judging you, baby, I want you to be well. You know, that's how I talk to my sister. So yeah, but I am tired of it. And also she has the constipation problem, because then you have to go through, you know, having constipation and then the iron kind of situation. And it is true in terms of the mucus buildup. That's another thing with the guts for all of us. I even have my challenge area too, with stress, as I said, in terms of the guts and the mucus buildup. But get the toxins. Don't willingly put the toxins on your hair and put them in your body by definitely having these shots. And then they were making those shots 5 years, or you didn't have to go back for 3 years and 5 years. It's just a mess. So yeah, the easiest thing to just don't relax your hair. When I went to the natural hair show, that's actually where the first time that they kind of talked about it, and just resonated with me. And I was like, how did I miss that one? Because I could definitely see how that could be the case with a whole lot of friends that I know who've had fibroids and have been relaxing their hair, obviously, and also been on birth control. But I did miss the relaxing thing. And then as soon as I came back from that natural hair show and they had talked about that, it was like, oh yeah, I got to tell my sister about that, you know. So yeah. So just kind of to summarize, surprisingly, I got through that. But yeah, stop using relaxers in your hair. There have been studies that suggest Black women and all that relaxing we're doing for years are related to fibroids. Change your eating styles and cut out all the processed GMO and hormone-laced food products. It's not real food at all. Detox, and we kind of know Javon is doing his detox thing, and apparently it's working. So get some of that country boy detox. Dr. Sebi, when he was talking about the cell food, it's the same thing in terms of just getting inside and working on your blood and your blood cells. All of those kinds of things. By now, hopefully, you already kind of learning how to cook the stuff that Javon was talking about in terms of just the G-bomb, which was greens, beans, onions, mushrooms, berries, and seeds. Just kind of having a combination of those things in your diet will help you as well. Just obviously cutting out the meat, because we already know it's just full of hormones. And we can look at our little girls and see that they're not looking like little girls. Their thighs, their ass, it is true. They almost look like a horse inside the booty, the legs. And it's nice on the one hand in terms of if it's a shapely figure, but then you also know if it's coming from the toxins, which a lot of times with these teenage girls it is, because it's true. They have the guts and all these other things going along with it, where it's, you know, it's not healthy. Even when you see a skinny girl and they still have all these skin problems, all these other kind of things. So one thing that I just said, and I talked about that the other day. So yeah, that's the kind of summarizer. I said, I wrote, we are the original people with the dominant genes and DNA. We are, and I have been saying that, and that means we are the cure, not the symptom. And we know that. It's funny, Oprah is coming out with a movie called Healer, if you don't know about it, HE-LA, and that's based on a black woman. That's how they got all this stuff they got, cancer treatments, stem cell research. It was basically based on a black woman whose blood was able to live outside of the cells or something I forgot how it went. But anyway, and they ended up taking her blood and being able to do all of this stuff with it. And of course, never giving her credit, all these things. And her daughter was the one who kind of did research and found out. It's an old story, but I think it's coming on HBO or something. Oprah's behind it. So it's definitely coming on TV, but it's about how this black woman basically had revolutionized medicine. They don't do much medicine in general now, but when they have, more than likely this black woman, even when you say here hemoglobin, is all of these things that just kind of came from her. I knew a little bit about it, but I'm glad that she's doing the story on it as well. So we are the cure, we're not the symptom. That's one of the reasons in terms of this organ thing, who's the dominant gene, who's the dominant DNA, who's the strongest, all of those things. So imagine that you have, how much more superhuman we would be if we stop pumping all this white man's processed poisons and toxins into our bodies. And how we got to this getting their diseases anyway. And we still don't even get, a lot of times, particularly if we're in Africa, even though they want to show all this famine and all this other stuff, a lot of times black people don't get a lot of the disease, the common diseases that, and also in South America and stuff like that you see on a regular basis here. They don't get those. They might have these starving countries that they go to, but for the most part, black people don't get all that other nonsense stuff like that. So yeah, corporate, I said, I saw that Javon wrote corporations control, he said corporations control the police, and I just was like, I think I talked about that yesterday or the day before, and I just wrote, Javon reiterated what I said and have been saying, yeah. So that this kind of goes corporate and then government, and then lobbyists, and then who's really controlling it. So government is not even, even up the line. So, yeah. All right. So now briefly, after I said all of that, let's talk about this bitch devil, white bitch devils, Margaret Sanger, and this Hillary bullshit. And I'm making good time, but yeah, I went past my usual time. But yeah. So the Planned Parenthood thing, yes, this bitch, and I'm just gonna call it that because these white women damn sure ain't our friends. Sometimes they worse than y'all already. People say they worse than the white men, but damn, just even having them as advocate for the white men, it's just like, woof, that's gonna be worse. We already see that. But yes, when she started out, she wanted to do her whole ulterior motive behind the helping the black women with the Planned Parenthood was because she felt like it needed to be some birth control, some not sterilization really. She really wasn't on it. It was kind of some birth control to control the birth rate in a sense, and they weren't necessarily doing sterilization. Killing black babies. Okay, we got all of that. We know all of that. And Hillary, and she was one of Hillary's heroes. Something I heard somebody say is because I was, making a point about, well, why is this an issue now? And somebody said the fact, well, she wasn't running for president until now. Yes, the fuck she did. She ran against Barack Obama. See how y'all forgot? That's the whole thing. She did run, but she ran for president already. And this whole thing. She was a lawyer. You knew this. She was the first lady of governor wife, Arkansas. She was the first lady of the United States, and you knew this. She was the senator, and you knew this. She was the secretary of state, and you knew this. She ran for she ran against Barack Obama the first time, and you knew this, and it was not news. They mind fucked you. I already said that before. I gave that example and stuff. I'm not going to go into that with this, but just to kind of show y'all how we got played with all the hoteps wanting to jump on and now start talking about Margaret Sanger and not realizing they just gave you this to talk about and acting like it's our issue again. And it's not. It's just their issue. And again, we just kind of get played into talking about it. But yes, she started out the Planned Parenthood like that. But the Planned Parenthood is just like any neighborhood, had become just like any neighborhood clinics. They were not doing more abortions in the black neighborhood than in the white neighborhoods and all these other things. White people have been getting abortions that they can afford in doctors' offices. Everybody kind of knows that, blah, blah, blah. But the whole premise of this is just going to be my brief point, because I could just go long on this. Margaret Sanger did not plan on white women getting abortions and not having kids. Black women who were having abortions were still having kids, on average 2 or 3 kids already, sometimes when they had an abortion. They have abortion, 1 or 2 abortions, and Javon is right, the average is about roughly 1 or 2 abortions that a Black woman has had. But Black women usually have also, on average, had 2 or 3 kids when she's had an abortion. White women have abortions, they ain't trying to have no kids. They don't have 1 kid when they have an abortion. And then sometimes they actually have 2 and 3 abortions and don't have no kids. At no point in this is the white woman having a kid. That's how this whole thing backfired. That's why they've been on Planned Parenthood. Of course, we already know, because it's their population that is declining. I could go into a whole lot of big gist of this and stuff like that. But then the bottom line is, this is not us. This is not about us. We might need to discuss in terms of what Black people need to do, but we already also attacking Black single women. Look how the men are turning out. Mr. Javon, all his talk about all of that kind of stuff. They lay down with some man raw, but they weren't the only one having unprotected sex that day. Man was having unprotected sex. Woman was having unprotected sex. Only one of them gets up pregnant. So I'm just over it in a way. If I start going, I already feel my let me start, and so I'm not gonna. But just the whole thing. The gist of it is that, yes, that white devil bitch started it in the sense of maybe wanting to control the Black population. What she didn't count on, and what happened, and why it has been a tremendous attack on Planned Parenthood for 2 decades now by these white men, is because their numbers are dwindling. We all actually know that part, but I don't know why we keep jumping on this bandwagon like this is an issue for us at all, because it isn't. We keep making it our issue and don't realize that we are getting played. They get inside your head. Hoteps want to get in there and talk about, oh, they killing babies and all this other stuff. And then on the same hand, you attacking Black single mothers for making bitches out of the men. Come on now, stop. Just stop. All right, I'm done. Okay. The only other thing, I had some other stuff, but this is my last day. I'm just like trying. That was a lot, and I still wasn't even finished. I'm looking at it now going, I have stuff, but I'm like, no, I ain't gonna read that, not gonna read that. All right, so I'll just say Javon's grandmother, I wrote Javon's grandma, because he was talking about, when he was talking about, I'm giving it good vibration, she's giving me excitation, and his mom came, his grandmother came outside and whooped him. So let me just say a little bit about this whole spanking thing, about this, because it just made me think to mention something about it. I used to say, and I still say, and I think I still agree with this, is that Black people need to stop beating their kids, and white people need to start beating their kids. I think that in that moment, that was a good example in terms of how, because of all that we going through, a lot of times we react instead of respond in terms of hitting our children. I've never been an advocate of hitting. I've tapped my nephew, only one of them out of the 3, maybe twice, and I was teaching him how to ride a bike. And this is it. This is a good example of it. Also, I tapped him because I was scared he was gonna fall. So, and he kept not listening to me. So I tapped him on I don't even know whether it was on the back of the head or on the back side. And I tapped him and stuff like that. But again, it was because I was scared he was going to fall. And that's how a lot of times we react as Black parents. I'm an auntie, but still, as a parent, it was based on fear and stuff like that. And it might come out as anger or something like that, or you feel like you have to kind of react in that way. I also remember I was looking at a picture of my niece when she was getting baptized, and my nephew was running around, and you know, I can remember back then he might have been running around, and we had to take the picture, and I just kind of grabbed him to hold him there in place, but I can see in the picture that I had this grip on his arm, and I can, you know how you can see that it's like a tight grip because he has this little suit shirt on and it's like a tight grip, and I don't like when I see that. You know, because I know at that moment I was probably just to get this picture done, you know, grabbed him a little forcibly kind of situations and stuff like so. But it's just, one of the things I thought about is a number of things, but one of the things I thought about when she came out and hit Javon, his grandmother, about the excitation, he's like, and I remember, I realized as an adult, it was because of the excitation. So you never, so basically you didn't know that day why you got hit. And then it takes you all the way to an adult to really realize that, okay, she hit me because I was singing this sex song that was a subtle sex song. But we missed those teachable moments. Basically, because it sounds like that's what that should have been. That should have been a moment where the grandmother talks to him and, you know, maybe explains sex and all that. But again, back then, and probably his grandmother, I'm assuming that definitely these Southern folks, and my mom and her family and my father's side of the family, they Southern folks and all of that kind of stuff. They just didn't do those types of things. So I'm saying all of that with some education and with advancements in living in the year 2017, that people had no point of reference for, no frames of reference for those types of things to say that you had teachable moments. But we called it, let me just read what I wrote. We called it beatings and whippings, and black moms' beatings were and are a lot of times frustration, fear. They're weary and tired, angry, and they kind of, and even I remember this was part of a lecture that I was watching where a black woman was saying that she was beating her sons before the cops beat them. And, you know, she was, so in other words, they have got you already conditioned and programmed where you're doing their work for them, and they still might get beat, because that's what ended up happening. Our son had got really abused, a police brutality thing going on with how cops beat him down, and you had beat him trying to prevent this from happening, and it still end up happening. So it's all those types of things where you just it's screwed up. It's kind of just part of, again, a lot of our mental brokenness because of what we've been dealing with, and that we do need to kind of stop. And I said, which doesn't make sense, but it's what we tell ourselves. So yeah, I wrote that down there. So I happened to look up when I said that. So yeah, but it's what we tell ourselves. It's the story we tell ourselves, that we kind of got to beat them before the world beats them and all this other stuff. Don't let them get out there and act wild and all these other things. We already know we end up having to have the talk about, you know, about how they should act with the police and all this other stuff. But it's also a lot of times we're still recycling bad parenting. We're recycling bad behavior. We can say sometimes they did the best they could, but sometimes they just fucked up. That's another thing too, when we say our parents did the best they could. Sometimes they didn't. They did what they need to do at the moment for themselves in terms of being afraid. Let me just handle this the way I know how, the quickest way I know how, and it wasn't the right way, and it was out of anger, or it was out of angst, and it was out of understanding, but still it wasn't a good way. So one of the things I just kind of wrote was communicate and get down to their level. Obviously with little children and stuff like that, you get down with them eye level and kind of talk to them. You can grasp them, but not grab them. You can get a hold of them and talk to them face to face, and get them much more accustomed to doing that in terms of us with Black kids. And I've talked about this, and when people have asked me to talk, I've kind of talked about it. And just kind of look them in the eyes and start communication with them. That's what I started to do with my nieces and nephews. And I remember my sister kind of being like, well, how do you know how to do this? And I was like, I know what not to do. You know, thanks to the adults, I knew what not to do. So I just was like, let's try to do this a different way. Because a lot of times, if we think about it, you can think of it, it'll pop in your head right now as I say, think about that time that your mom or dad did something real fucked up and they owe you an apology. Yeah, you just thought of it, right? You probably have 10 or 20. Everybody does, where you just be like, yeah, that was messed up. You know, my mom really shouldn't have done that, or my dad really shouldn't have said that, or whatever the case may be, where they owe you an apology. So imagine, all of those types of things, and kind of taking that into a new way of parenting, of teachable moments. We know the cops don't care about beating our kids, but we don't need to be beating our kids. Them white ass kids, some of them, we've seen them, and we be like, you need your ass beat. I don't agree with hitting any kind of kids at this point. That there's been times when obviously I got a couple of spankings. I actually, of course, by now you realize I'm probably told my mom, I think we should stop doing the spanking thing, just with the mindset that I am. I don't even think my brothers and sisters realize I did that, but I did. Everybody stopped getting spankings then. And I don't know if my mom remembers that, but that did happen. But it's just kind of getting to the point where you are communicating. Also, the final thing with this is, the cops are going to try to beat us down, and we're trying to control our vibration, create our own force fields and stuff like that. And I talked about that yesterday too. I didn't do a lot of clarifying, but unfortunately we already seen kind of this people who are still getting taken out, and you kind of almost have to look at it like these are these sacrificial soldiers in this big broad fight. Some of us, you know, people who are not going to make it, and some people who are. When you're on the battlefield, sometimes when you already know, sometimes that front line is the sacrifice line, and then people coming behind it as you continue to progress forward. You know, but hopefully we can, you know, you want to believe in this vibration and this attraction stuff, because they solidified their laws. So you just want to make sure that you are able to have some belief that there's a greater power in you to protect yourself and your family, and talking to their sources. Everybody's sending vibrations to their loved ones, as we also combat this thing in the physical form. Social work and CPS is an absolute joke in the area of child abuse. So yeah, they arrest their parents for beating kids and all that other stuff. You know, I could go into all of that kind of stuff, but they're not even doing their job in general. They don't get the right families. They don't get the white families or the right families for a lot of abuse as well. So it's just a whole nonsense, just like a lot of these systems that have been put in place that ultimately don't benefit us as Black people. All right, final thoughts for this day. I got 6 minutes left. Make deposits into your boom boom room, as I said, and also just kind of remember, and I thank you all for just kind of being a part of this and supporting. Just remember to make deposits in your boom boom room every day. Whatever you want to deposit, it's all you. It's whatever you want. Hopefully keeping it positive. If revenge is your highest bubble, but you still want to keep things positive, making deposits, but also recognize, and I'll be talking about this in various ways. It'll be on here probably just as a video about trash can deposits. And those trash can deposits is all of the negative thoughts that you're thinking, the fear thoughts, the what ifs, the worst case scenarios, the shit that hasn't happened yet, all the stories you're creating in your head. Those things are trash can deposits. Don't put them in Debbie Downer land. If you're going by Javon's diagram, damn sure don't put them up in your boom boom room. That's just contaminants. They're the virus. So and stuff like that. But just having a little garbage can, that's probably the only thing I thought y'all should put, a little garbage can to just trash some things that don't even need to be there. They're pink bubbles, but they shouldn't even be bubbles. They should be trash. Maybe making your diagrams, been writing out Javon's diagrams, make yourself a little trash can and write in there negative thoughts, fear thoughts, what ifs, worst case scenarios, shit that hasn't happened yet, all the stories you create in your head. Just try to do that so that you have a vortex boom boom room versus the trash can deposits, you know, because we want to make deposits into the boom boom room. And just to follow up yesterday on what I said, there is a myth of the white of allies that are white and non-Black people of color too, because we see that now they're getting deported and everybody wants us to sing Kumbaya, but no, I'm not. They don't have no skin in the game for Black people, you know, so I ain't even gonna go into that's about it. They ain't got no skin in the game. They ain't no allies. You know, if they ain't going and marching into their police departments, which we know ain't never gonna happen, they ain't got no skin in the game. So because we automatically have skin in the game. This beautiful brown melanin, love my skin. It's gonna get darker with the summer coming. Love it, but we got skin in the game all the time. So we are living under control of the white man's integration, assimilation, conditioning, and it has always been about dumbing down Black people. So don't be part of their stuff. Stop living under the control of their stuff, because that's what's dumbing us down. They want to put out stereotypes that we're not intelligent and all these other things, but we are the most intelligent. But living under their control, trying to integrate and assimilate and keep believing that they're going to change and they're going to accept us when we have 300, 400 years of evidence that they're not. Every time they tell you to do something, here's the next obstacle that they want you to climb over, and here's the next obstacle they want you to climb over. Get a job. Get education, get clean up, or live in a nice neighborhood. All these types of things that you keep jumping over, there's hurdles that they just keep putting there, and they never gonna accept you. So, you know, never is an absolute, if you don't already know that, which never, always, all those types of words. you don't have to bother anymore. You don't have to bother. It's not a pessimistic thing. I'm just saying, love yourself, love your people, love your family, live in your communities, build them up, Black empowerment, all those types of things. This is the type of things that we should be a part of. So Malcolm X, I saw his speech, but we've heard it in different ways and stuff. Our ancestors were kidnapped. They were brought here to be citizens. We have a stake in this country because our kidnappers got free labor for 300 years. Bottom line. So we don't have to be thankful. We should be more thankful. We should be more grateful when they throwing us crumbs off their tables and working from their playbook and all that stuff. We don't have to be thankful. And they saying you being ungrateful, damn right. We already have paid our stakes, and they died paying for all of this and still didn't get anything. So yes, we are the children and the results of all of what you have done, and we still here and we still making it through. So I think that's it. Invest in yourself is my final just words of encouragement. Make sure that you're investing in yourself. Like I said, you are your job. Invest in yourself. Don't work overtime no more for white people. Don't work twice. Don't be twice as good for half as much. All of their bullshit that they told you, cut all of that out. Again, that's you dumbing down. So stop doing all that stuff that you gotta be twice as good to get half as much. Well, why the fuck you doing that then? If you're twice as good, be twice as good without trying to get half as much from them. Go get twice as much. So anyway, I remember a friend and she was we were graduating, actually. It was our senior year of college, thankfully. And she was thinking about going to medical school. And she was just like, oh, if I go to medical school, it's my last story on this. She said, oh, it's going to take so much longer. It's going to, 6 more years of school or a residency and all 8 years and all total 8 years, all the stuff that I'm going to go through. I'll just be so much older. When you graduate from college, you're like 22. If you graduate on time these days, it's hard, more difficult and stuff like that. So I'll just be so old when I graduate. And I remember saying to her, and we were kind of talking across the room. We were in class before class started. And she was talking and she's like, yeah, and I'll be old, 30. And I said, well, how old will you be in 6 years or 8 years? Let's say 8 years. I said, how old will you be in 8 years if you don't go? And that's the thing. I think, like I said, a lot of times the stories we tell ourselves in our head, in 8 years, you're still going to be 30. So you're going to be 30, Dr. 30, or you're going to be whatever, 30. So when you're thinking about things as well, just kind of making sure you're investing in yourself. Think stuff through logically and rationally, and stop telling yourself stupid shit like that. And you probably don't mean any harm, but it's just something that we are just sometimes conditioned to do in terms of negative self-talk and to talk ourselves out of something. So even if you're 40, 50, whatever the case may be, and you're going, oh, but I go back to school, it's going to take me so long. How long is it going to take? How many years ahead? If it's going to take you 4 years, 4 years, that's such a long time. Where are you going to be in 4 years anyway? So go ahead and do it. Do you and do you well. So that's it. Mental health video coming. This channel is still going to be up. Thank you everybody for supporting. I truly appreciate it. All the people who come and watch later now and don't sit through this. I've seen that I actually have views and some people subscribing. So I appreciate that, I guess. I know it has been long-winded. The videos will not be being this long going forward, except maybe the weekly chats. And that's about an hour or less. That's my plan. It's definitely to be or less. So I appreciate you. Appreciate all the people who have been on here with me and chatted with me and showed up sometimes. Kim, Dina, Diana showed up one day. Sharissa showed up one day, and I apologize. Oh, and Sybil Rhea started coming in the end, leaving comments and stuff. So I just appreciate all of y'all. And obviously, Turner's Church, I'm still here. Blue Dotted Line, can't help it. I'm here with them. So Turner's Church, Black Empowerment, Javon, the Master Teacher. Love him or hate him sometimes. Watch the Bubbles and the Bears. We're in 21 days of alignment. Total man, total woman, getting our workout on. I'm already slimming down, so it's working for me. And eating no meat. Just had a salad and an avocado. So eat right. And let's get this thing done. Black people, for Black people, by Black people. Love y'all. See you next time. This 21 days is a wrap. Peace.